All right. Welcome to the Questionable Calls podcast. It's Sunday evening around 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We just watched the Buffalo Bills beat the Chiefs.
For the
I
fourth
was,
straight time in the regular season.
yeah, I was going to say, hung on. They hung on to beat the Chiefs, but, I think they were the better team in this game by whatever margin you have. So, yeah, I think yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, it's a nice win for Buffalo, but as you and I have said over and over again, like the regular season in the NFL doesn't really matter that much. So I kind of take the NFL as just like entertainment during the regular season. That's
Yeah.
kind of where I've got it. I don't make definitive statements about most teams during the regular season or get into debates, but so
Today was a pretty fun Sunday, so yeah, it was fun. There were some close games, there were some fun finishes. Like the 1 o'clock games were pretty good. So even the 4 o'clock games, I mean, the Broncos beat the crap out of the Falcons, but the other two were really close.
yeah, the witching hour was pretty entertaining today. It was one of those where I'm like, shocked and laughing and all of that stuff all at the same time.
Yeah.
So, all right, Clark, so let's check in, weekly check in. Where are we at with our Chiefs hate? I mean, they lost this game, but
Well, I
does it
mean, yeah, you lose, it's got to come down a little bit. So what was I at a 7 last time? I think I'm at about a 5 now, maybe a 4. I mean, because
okay?
you can kind of like, all right, okay, they got taken down a little peg, Um,
Right. No
so
more no more undefeated season talk.
yeah. So we can kind of put that. Which, to be honest, that doesn't. I mean, who under an undefeated season, obviously that would be pretty amazing. But it's probably more important you win the Super Bowl. So
Yeah, I did not. I thought the undefeated stuff was way too early. To me, we can talk about undefeated after you've clinched everything. When you're 13 or 14-0 and you've clinched the one seed and the only thing left for you to do is to try to go undefeated. Then I think we can discuss it. But I just thought it was premature, especially the way the Chiefs have been winning some of these games.
right.
Um, just that last one last week was just ridiculous. The blocking the field goal at the end, and I give the Chiefs special teams credit and all that, but you can't bank on that kind of stuff happening week after week.
Well, in order to beat the Chiefs, really, I mean, either they played poorly or your defense is like out of their mind and they're just getting a bunch of turnovers, or you have a quarterback who can put your team on his back and just carry you through. And that's what Josh Allen can do. Like we've seen him do it against the Chiefs before. So, I mean, just all these rollouts where he's throwing across his body, running around and doing stuff. The last run to score the clinching touchdown. I mean, it's just that's what having a really, really elite quarterback that gives you the chance to actually compete with the Chiefs and potentially beat them in the playoffs. Although they've yet to do that. So credit to Josh Allen, and then the Bills. Like I guess we've had questions about their defense, and the Chiefs did. They scored 3 touchdowns. Potentially could have scored more, but so yeah, it's a regular season game. It really doesn't mean that much. It was fun, but yeah.
So your take that the Chiefs are not going to three-peat, do you feel any different about that based on this game, or is this just, hey, the Buffalo won in the regular season, but let's see what it's like in January?
Uh, well, look, the Chiefs are beatable because a lot of these games are close. You
Right.
know, so like I said, if you have Josh Allen or you have Lamar Jackson's got to play like it in the playoffs, but if you have a guy like that, you've got a shot. I'm trying to think of any like Joe Burrow, but the problem with the Bengals is their defense is just bad, and I don't even know if they're going to be in the playoffs. And then you look at the other teams like the Texans, are they ready to do that yet? I'm not really sure. And then I'm trying to think of other like the Steelers, which maybe we could talk about that next for a little bit. I mean, they've won like 2 games this year where they didn't score a touchdown. It's like so
Yeah.
I don't know. Although the Steelers defense, like that can be a pain in the butt to play. So So
Yeah.
I'm put it this way, to summarize it. I mean, I'm still relatively confident in mine. They're not going to three-peat pick, you know, but I'm a little bit nervous. So
Okay, yeah. I thought like I said, I've said the whole season, like I like the way Buffalo's trying to play. You know, they're trying to run the ball a little bit more. Um, they're trying to, manage the game a little bit better, which leads to less kind of wild fluctuations. Not having Josh Allen threw an interception today, but they were pretty clean otherwise. And so I think that's kind of the way that they're trying to play. And you can see in this game, like, I kind of think it works. And on defense, like, I think Buffalo knows that, they're disciplined. They know how to rush Mahomes. They kept him in the pocket as much as they could, and they spied him a lot. And whenever he got outside, they had guys there to go after him. So they made it so Mahomes couldn't just run around and do whatever. And he rarely, he ran for a couple of plays, but he didn't really make a whole lot of plays taking off up the field. They basically kept him behind the line of scrimmage, which I think is probably a smart thing to do, especially when you've got a Chiefs team that's trying to figure out kind of what they are offensively. Now, they're supposed to get Pacheco back. So, maybe the Chiefs will be able to run the ball a little bit better and maybe, work in DeAndre Hopkins a little bit more. So I see room for the Chiefs to improve. But as of right now, the Chiefs have kind of hit a spot. They're just kind of stuck in one place, and their offense is just it's okay. It makes it difficult for them. And I mean, if you're playing against the Chiefs, it's just, can you block Chris Jones? Can you protect your quarterback well enough so that he can go make whatever the plays he has to make?
yeah, or can your quarterback run around enough and even dealing with the rush? I mean, which Josh Allen did a few times in this game. So
Yeah, and like the story leading in, well, the Buffalo's got this receiver out and that receiver out, and it just kind of, at this point, it just kind of makes me laugh. With great quarterbacks, I don't really, receivers matter, but they're not the most important thing. You just got to have enough. And he had Cooper today. He had Knox at tight end. Shakir made some plays. Like, I thought he had it. He had enough, especially when you're going against the Chiefs and Buffalo. They made just enough plays to win. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's the thing. We can criticize the Chiefs, but it's basically like they're down 23-21. If they can get a stop or hold Buffalo to a field goal, they'll have the ball with a chance to go down and take the lead, right?
Right.
And so Buffalo is basically like, I feel like we've seen this multiple times in games against the Chiefs. You're playing them, and there's a point where it's like, okay, you have the ball. Go down and score a touchdown. If you go down and score a touchdown, either the pressure's on them or you've got a big enough lead where it's like they're in trouble. Okay. And the Bills, they drove down the field, they got to a fourth down, and Josh Allen made a play and, basically won them the game. That's playing against the Chiefs. Like,
well, what's funny, Clark, is that, or interesting to me, is that we feel like Josh, or the narrative that I believe is portrayed by the media is, well, Josh Allen's got to get it done. He's got to win the big one. And for me, I don't think Josh Allen needs to prove anything to me. Like, to me, Josh Allen can do this. This is not abnormal to me. He had the Chiefs beat in 2021, and the stupid coach couldn't stop the Chiefs from getting a field goal with 13 seconds left. I don't feel that Josh Allen needs to prove that he can do it. But when we talk about Lamar Jackson, it's a different story.
Well, because Josh Allen's got 5 playoff wins. He's he's gone to the playoffs. Okay, his first year he went and he lost. Every year since, he goes to the playoffs and wins at least one playoff game.
Right.
And like, people need to understand, like, look, unless you win multiple Super Bowls, your playoff record, if you keep going to the playoffs, is 500.
Right.
Like right at it, at or below 500. That's what it is. That's what Peyton Manning's playoff record was. Okay. And then people go, oh, well, why is it whatever? And it's like I said, unless you win multiple Super Bowls in a short span, your playoff record is going to be 500. Okay. So the quarterbacks who continue to make it to the playoffs and can win at least one playoff game. Do you realize how rare that is? Joe Burrow doesn't make the playoffs every year. Lamar is really good. He's won 2 MVPs. He doesn't win a playoff game every year. In fact, he plays some of his worst football in the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, it's just like the Fenders make the playoffs and win a playoff game every year. Like it's a totally rare thing. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, let's segue Lamar Jackson. Let's segue into the Steelers Ravens game, because Clark, look, the Steelers may be becoming my favorite team, because I've never done a 180 on a team this fast. But it's documented, okay, that I've been like, Steelers are bullshit. You can't. This is nonsense. You can't win. You're not going to win. You're not going to win playoff games this way. This is a bunch of crap. They get to the playoffs because they're 9-8, and Tomlin never has a losing record in a season, and everybody goes apeshit. And I'm like, come on, what is this crap? I don't believe in the Steelers at all. I've been on record saying that. But you know what? They put Russell Wilson in, and I was like, I liked Russell Wilson when he was in Seattle. I thought I was a fan, but at this point, I'm just like, this guy's toast. Like, what are we doing here? And then, you realize that, oh, no, the Steelers are actually like really smart, and Tomlin like really knows how to get a team to win games. And so they figured this out. They're like, okay, we're going to put, Russell Wilson, we're going to give him the Seattle treatment. We're going to run the ball. We're going to give him easy throws. We're going to move him around the pocket, or move him outside the pocket and let him do stuff. And then he's going to throw deep balls. And we have these receivers. We got Pickens and these, who can go get deep balls. And so that's what we're going to do. And they had 6 field goals today. And
8 field goals.
8 field goals? They scored 18 points, right? 18-16.
Oh.
6 field goals.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Six. So 8 field goals would have been crazy. 6 field goals. Russell Wilson tries to throw the ball away by throwing an interception in the end zone, which is completely unnecessary, and they win the game anyway because their defense is just awesome, and they stop Baltimore on a 2-point conversion. And and then they bring in just the comical part of this game, Clark, is so they get down to Baltimore tries an onside kick because they're down by 2. They give this, so the Steelers recover it. They get the ball, and they have to, they basically have to make them go 3 and out. And so Pittsburgh brings in Justin Fields. It's like 2nd and 9. They bring in Justin Fields so he can run, right? And they set up the play perfectly. He runs around the corner. He's there. He's got all the space. He's got enough space to get the first down. And he slides before
too quick. Yeah.
Right. Before he slides a yard before he gets to the first down. And he's all celebrating like he got the first down. I'm like, what are you, a dumbass? Like, what's wrong with you? And so it's 3rd and 1 or whatever. And so they bring in Russell Wilson, then they call timeout, then they bring Fields back in, and then they run it and they get the first down, and the game's over, which is fine. But it just like, it just made me laugh. I'm like, oh, of course, this is how they're going to win this game. But yeah, it just,
Well, look, they can win the division. Like they're totally,
they can now.
They can win the division. They can have a home playoff game. And well, wait a minute. Are they the
only
2
have
seed
2 losses. So.
Is Buffalo the 2 seed now?
I don't know who has the tiebreaker right now, but they're
right. Okay. So yeah, that's it. I mean, look, if can they win playoff games this way? Yeah, I don't really think so, but
look at the AFC, Clark. I mean, Denver's in the playoffs.
You get past those really good teams, like
that's what I mean. Denver's in the playoffs right now. They're 6-5. They're the 7 seed. You play the Chargers. Well, the Chargers play the same way the Steelers do.
Yeah.
Like it's so. Yeah, I was, again, yeah. Now I am not, again, I do not believe this team is a championship contender. I don't think you cannot just go beat the best quarterbacks in the NFL with playing like this, but I'm a big fan, man. This is a lot of fun. And I laughed my ass off when Russell Wilson threw the interception in the end zone. I was kind of like, oh, there it is. There it is.
I yelled at the TV. I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Is Russ coming
Was he
back to the?
throwing it away, or was he trying to throw it to
I
that receiver?
I think he was trying to throw it to a receiver. I don't think he was throwing it away. But whatever. We'll see what. I mean, I'm sure Russell Wilson will be really positive about it because that's what he always is. So yeah, I love this. It's just and the thing is, Clark, I've come to this realization, like the way the game's being played now, where it's like there's not really explosive offenses unless other than Detroit, right? I mean, Detroit is just fucking rolling people. But other than Detroit, they really don't have these explosive offenses that you're afraid of. It's you got to be able to run the ball, you got to be able to play defense. Like the games are everybody keeps the two safeties back, so you can't make big plays over the top. So the way the game is played now, why the hell not? And again, I got to give Mike Tomlin, you got to give Mike Tomlin credit. I mean, this guy, good Lord, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and he's leading the division.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some coaching right there. Because
he's only a game out of the 1 seed.
That's right.
Really,
that's exactly.
I mean, so
exactly right. And listen, their defense is really good. There's no question about that. But I'm flipping it over to the Ravens side. I mean, Clark, how concerned should we be about the Ravens here? Because I know it's this Ravens Steelers and it's a division game and whatever. Like you can't like make sweeping statements about it. But Baltimore's got issues. Like their defense is not good.
Well, we knew their defense wasn't good. Their defense is it's not good. It's not going to get better. Like they had some guys. They had the defensive coordinator leave. Like they got to rebuild that side of the ball. So yeah, their defense is not going to be good. And Lamar's still probably going to win the MVP, but
yeah, maybe Josh Allen will after today.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's a narrative thing, and like people that narrative has already started. Lamar winning another MVP, so it would kind of depend on. I mean, as it is a narrative thing over the last month and a half of the season, does Josh Allen have more performances like we just watched? Okay, then the narrative starts to switch. It's like, hey, you know what, Josh Allen? I think like it becomes a groundswell of like, oh, we should give him the MVP instead of Lamar. Yeah, the Ravens, this has been an issue for a while now. Like it's basically they get into some of these games and it's just the whole thing is a struggle. Now, granted, they drove down the field and they almost tied the game. They did a 2-point conversion and they didn't get it. But it is kind of bad. I mean, you don't let the other team score touchdowns and you still lose the game. So
Yeah, you lost to Russell Wilson and this. I mean, I don't know what you want to call this offense that they have, but I mean, it's just, it's not it doesn't look good for the Ravens because the Steelers aren't going to let you run the ball. You're not going to run the ball against the Chiefs. Like, maybe you were able to do it against Buffalo, and maybe Clark, maybe the playoffs, especially in the AFC, is just going to come down to matchups. You know what I mean? Maybe Buffalo can beat the Chiefs, but they can't beat the Ravens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Ravens can't beat the Chiefs, but they can beat the Bills.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Because because the Chiefs played the Bills, and we saw what just happened. The Chiefs played the Ravens, and look, it was a close game, but I mean the Chiefs were kind of in control of it, and then the Ravens beat the shit out of the Bills. So, yeah, I don't know. That's you maybe
it's right. Maybe it's a different maybe it just comes down to that. But yeah, I think you got to be concerned, Baltimore fan. This is their 4th loss, and they're probably, they're not likely to win the division. I'm not saying they're done, but they're not.
They play the Steelers one more time,
right.
So
they're not likely to win the division. And if they don't, then you got to go. You got to go on the road in these games, and But I mean, to me, the hope for the Ravens is like the 2006 Colts, where the Colts had the worst defense in the league. They got ran over by Jacksonville, like the second or close to the end of the regular season, and then the defense played really well, and they went on and won the Super Bowl. Now they had Peyton Manning, so it's a little different. But I think that's what if you're a Ravens fan, I think that's what you got to pull for.
Well, maybe, yeah, and maybe Lamar Jackson, like I said, with Lamar, I never felt like he was a guy who was going to be able to win multiple Super Bowls, but I did feel like there's a possibility one of these years things could line up and he could go through. Like Kind of like,
Yeah.
oddly enough, like Joe Flacco did.
Right.
Also the Ravens quarterback. Like he had a really awesome playoff run. I
Yep.
think that's within the realm of possibility. Is it going to be
Absolutely.
this year? I don't know. I mean,
Absolutely. And Clark, like you have this in the NBA all the time where it's like, okay, one team gets beat earlier than they're supposed to, or somebody gets injured or something happens and it opens up and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're going to the finals. And so that kind of stuff happens. So yeah, I get that if you're a Ravens fan, that's what you're rooting for. All right, Clark, let's talk about the Dolphins. They are failing to cooperate, Clark. You know, they can't just go away and die. We gotta go through this nonsense now. If we're gonna beat the Raiders and we're gonna beat the Rams and we're probably gonna beat the Patriots next week. We're gonna be 5-6, and all of our idiot Dolphin fan friends are gonna be like, "This is a good team. We got a chance. Like hey, we got a shot at this." And we're gonna go. And I'm gonna before we talk about the game day, this is I'm predicting the future for the Dolphins. They're gonna win next week. They're gonna beat the Patriots, right? They'll be 5-6. People will be singing their praises. They're going to go to Green Bay on Thanksgiving night and get smoked. Okay. And everybody's going to be like, oh, well, we still got a shot, blah, blah, blah. Then they'll probably beat the Jets the next week. Right. And then they'll lose to Houston and San Francisco, and that'll officially end the season. But,
okay.
It's just asinine to me. But I was.
Well, okay. I will say this, though. Based on what we've seen from the 49ers,
right.
I think you got to give the Dolphins a chance in that game. It's not like they're playing the 49ers from last year or the year before, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you give them a shot in that game. Houston, I don't know. Green Bay, yeah, it's just because of we don't know what the weather's going to be, and it's just if the weather's bad, forget it. Like I don't even just forget it. Like literally, just totally forget. I don't care. And so it's just like, you're watching them. It's like, yeah, when they play bad teams, yeah, they can run the ball a little bit. Tua can make some throws. They can look. Their offense looks fine. Looks good.
And Clark, the positive Dolphins fan, would say, well, they almost beat Buffalo 2 weeks ago.
I mean, yeah, technically, yeah, they almost did. Buffalo had to make a 61-yard field goal to win the game, but I mean, the game was tied. So it's not like, if you missed that, they were going to, right? The game was tied, right?
Right, but I'm just saying, then they would have been overtime. I'm just saying, that's what the positive Dolphins fan would say. Well, look, you almost beat Buffalo. And I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, yeah, almost my ass. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You really think we would have beaten Josh Allen in overtime? Really? I just, so yeah, you are right. The 49ers are not as good as they were. We get the 49ers at home. Houston is not awesome and they play in a dome. Right. So these are not unwinnable games, but I just feel like I can see this future, and I don't want any part of it. It's like, for God's sakes, can we just?
I'd rather have a high draft pick and try to. They need to rebuild the offensive line. That's just so important, but they haven't been able.
Yeah,
to
the Dolphins are going to string this out, win 7 or 8 games, have the 18th pick, and we're going to be sitting there like, all right, whatever.
Yeah,
but I mean, the game today. Look, I think that, I mean, to me, what I see in the game, they won the game. They ran the ball well. They completed passes when they needed them. But Clark, the leading receiver on the team was the tight end, Jonnu Smith. Like, I've never felt more like we do not need Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle than I do now. Like, we do not need them. Like, we don't use them for what they're actually for. Like, it's either bail the quarterback out or catch a 7-yard pass. It's just, but I will say, Clark, it's more efficient this way. What you and I have been screaming about for 3 years, like, this is the way they need to play. Run the ball, keep Tua's passing attempts down, try to be more efficient with what's going on, and they threw the ball 43 times today. So that's a bit much.
Well, the other thing is, you think about it, like the running backs they have, they're not paying a bunch of money for any of those running backs, right? So it's just kind of a thing with receivers too. Like you could, you can draft receivers and you can get guys that can fit into a system. Because again, if people are playing, two high safeties, which they really are, I think people have I think the problem with Dolphins fans is I think they have the impression it's like, well, it's going to take Tua a little bit, and then we'll start seeing all these explosive plays again. And it's like, no, that's not no that last 2 year thing that's over. Like, forget that. So
Yeah, I totally agree. And I apologize. I was wrong. The Dolphins only threw it 36 times. But yeah, 36 times, and then they ran it 26 times. So look, this is the way they should have been playing all this time. And the right tackle's out for the year, and so I mean, I just but yeah, so yeah, they can beat them, and I mean, God, with the Jets today, good God, the way the Jets are playing, like they could beat the Jets both times. Why not? Because this is what I will say about. I'll give the Dolphins fans, I'll give you a little bit of credit here. The Dolphins are not necessarily a good team, but they are not a bad team. Like this, 4-6, they are not a 4-6 team. They're better than that.
Well, yeah. If Tua wasn't out as long, they probably win one or two more games, and then we're talking about a 500 team. It's like, okay, that's about right.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. But you know what? I mean, so I went from this today, like, all right, are they going to figure out how to lose this game? And then once I figured out, they scored the last touchdown, I was like, all right, well, they're not going to figure out a way to lose this game, but they're good. They kept the Raiders in it though. They figured out how to do that. But yeah, so I can be happy for the team while they win, while recognizing that this is just a complete waste of time.
Yeah, more or less. So yeah, we'll see that. I mean, hopefully they don't get just absolutely annihilated on Thanksgiving night, but
yeah, I mean, look, but I refuse to buy into, they've got an easy schedule. That's a bit far-fetched.
Yeah, I heard Colin Cowherd say that weeks ago, and I'm just like, I didn't look at the schedule. I'm like, wait a minute. From what I remember, the early part of the schedule was easier. The later part of the schedule was going to be really difficult. Especially because they're playing the Jets. One of those games is in New York. Okay,
it's the last game of the season.
Yeah, that's December or early January. Like, right. That's not good.
Right. Yeah, no, the thing is, like, yeah, we're not playing like teams that aren't playing. We're going to be playing teams that are trying to get in the playoffs, trying to win their division, right? They're playing for stuff. We're not going to be playing a bunch of loser teams. Now, but the Jets, they don't qualify. They're bad. But
yeah.
And these are tough road games, going to Green Bay, going to Houston, I know it's indoors, and going to Cleveland. It's the second to last game of the season. So
Jameis, look, I know Cleveland lost today to the Saints, but their offense is functional now. Jameis Winston is a functional. In fact, he was a really good fantasy quarterback today. He threw for almost 400 yards.
They're competitive now versus having no shot. They're actually competitive. That doesn't mean they're not a good team, but they are competitive. And so, yeah, I scoff at that. Their schedule is easy. Oh, give me a break. All right, so let's move on. So the Bears, Clark. So I'm supposed to believe that, we fired Shane Waldron and now we know what we're doing. Like, that is some bizarre crap. I cannot figure out the Bears, Clark. First 3 games, they're awful. They managed to win one of them. Second 3 games, they look good. You're like, oh, all right. They're coming around. They're running the ball. They're doing what they should be doing. Like, this is a competent offense. In the last 3 games, they couldn't score a touchdown in the last 3 games. Like, what's happening? And then they show up today, and it's like they're making plays. Like, they're running the ball. They're throwing the ball to the right guy.
They should have won the game. I mean, they let the field goal get blocked.
Yeah, Green Bay blocks the field goal at the end. Otherwise, they win. Which, by the way, that's something else that annoys me, Clark. 30 seconds to go. Try to get more yards. Like, don't just leave it to a 47-yard field goal. Try to get more yards. I don't understand why teams don't do that.
What is the deal with coaches? Like, on the one hand, they're way too aggressive, and then on the other hand, they're way too, like, what can you guys pick? I'm not saying you got to be consistent all the time, but like, can you what is that? It's like, we're at the 35-yard line. We're good now. Really? You sure?
Yeah. Even a 45-yard field goal outdoors in Chicago is not a gimme. And when you're kicking it from that far, you can't kick it as high. Right? So if you get inside I just think, you got to get get down to the 25. I think it's just a different animal. So it just kind of annoys me they didn't do that. And second week in a row, somebody gets their kick blocked when they're like winding down the clock thinking, all right, we got this. And then the kick gets blocked. So it's just kind of, that's kind of frustrating.
Can I also say in that game, Matt LaFleur, you guys were down what was it? 19 to
19 to
19 to
13.
4, 19 to 13 or 14. Okay. They had the ball, they drove down and they went for
19
a
to
fourth
14.
down.
Yeah.
You could have just kicked a field goal. If you'd have kicked a field goal and then later on you score that touchdown, you're up 3. So if they kick a field goal, they only tie you. You know.
Right.
So and there were like 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Like, what? You really needed to go for it there? I don't know. That can be questionable, I guess, but it's just like, if a field goal brings you closer, like, why wouldn't you just kick it there? But, whatever. They ended up winning the game, but.
Yeah, they got a touchdown to make it 20-19, and then they went for 2 and didn't get it. Yeah, so it's that was, I don't know what to say about the Bears now. Like, I don't know what that is. What I do know is the fact that the head coach, like he apparently interviewed 9 different people for the offensive coordinator job, hires Shane Waldron, he doesn't make it to Thanksgiving. Like, that's, to me, that's like, all I can do is shake my head. Because Clark, if we look at the difference between the Bears and the Commanders, the Bears have more talent than the Commanders do. Like, I don't think that's debatable. They have more talent, but Washington is so much better coached that it completely makes up for it.
Mm-hmm.
So, they both have rookie quarterbacks. Don't use that as an excuse. They're both really talented, but Chicago has more weapons on offense. They got some guys on defense that are studs. Washington defense was terrible, and they're just doing it with coaching and figuring out how to put guys in the right place. They're doing it all, out of nowhere. And the Bears have more than enough talent to win games. Like, and I'm not saying they need to play like this every week. I'm just saying, how can you be that bad for multiple games?
Well, Nick Wright's been saying this. I mean, talent's important, but it's less important in the NFL compared to, like, are you in the right place at the right time? Are you in the right system? Are you doing the right stuff? Are you calling the right kind of plays or whatever? And the Bears, clearly, they're really not. I don't think they know what the hell they're doing. And so they haven't really put themselves in the best position to succeed, pretty much the whole season. So now, Jaden Daniels, I don't know. I mean, you could say he's maybe more comfortable within a structure and within the pocket because he played way more in college. But yeah, it does feel like you watch the Bears and it just feels like, what are you guys doing week to week? Like, it doesn't really make sense.
Well,
and go ahead.
Well, yeah, and yeah, I just think the coaching thing is just a huge deal. Cliff Kingsbury coached Patrick Mahomes in college. He knows how to deal with a young quarterback coming into the NFL for
He
the first
coached
time.
Kyler Murray in Arizona.
Right. And Shane Waldron has never done that before. And it always confused the hell out of me when the Dolphins, like, we draft Tua and then we have fucking Chan Gailey as the offensive coordinator. It's like, has he ever drafted a young quarterback in the first round? And then no. So it's just like, what are we doing? So, yeah, I just think that's frustrating because I just think, to me, where I am with football, Clark, coaching is just the most significant thing I can tell you. Like, it's just, that's it. That's like most of it. Yeah, you got to have the quarterback, I understand, to win big. But to win games, you just need the right coach. Somebody who knows how to do it, knows how to set the culture, knows how to run stuff. And, and I like the Dolphins coach, but he's kind of in that, yeah, he's okay.
Yeah.
Like, he's not really, I mean, he's a great play designer and that kind of stuff. But the rest of it, like, whatever. We'll talk about that another time. Before we finish on the NFL, like, Clark, the Jets just continuing to suck is just the greatest thing ever. I can't get enough of watching the Jets struggle, and they're down 13-0 against Anthony Richardson today, and I'm just like, what? What?
Yeah.
This just continues to get more embarrassing. And then they got the ball with like 45 seconds left, and I'm like, Aaron Rodgers, oh, good. So Aaron Rodgers can fail in front of all the New York fans. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. It's just like, Jesus, man, the Colts are not good. Like, that's bad. You come out, you're not ready to play at all. Now they managed to come back and take the lead, so I give them credit for that. But I mean, the Colts with the guy who can barely complete passes.
I mean, yeah, the biggest plays of the game, they're like, here, Anthony, just run with the ball. Like,
Right.
they're not, they don't trust him to throw. So that tells you something.
Yeah. So that is a goddamn disaster. I don't know what to say. Like, yeah, I get annoyed with the Dolphins, but goddamn, at least we're not the Jets.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely the result that I got the biggest kick out of. All right. Anything else NFL wise before I get to rant about college football?
Yeah, go ahead. Rant about college football.
Okay, so Clark, I told you this like 2 weeks ago, right? The complaints about the committee comes out with their first rankings, and the complaints are, well, you're supporting the big brands too much. It's SEC brand bias. You're not Indiana and BYU should be higher. This isn't fair. Blah blah blah. And then the next week they move BYU and Indiana up, and all the SEC people are mad. What about our strength of schedule? Indiana couldn't win would have 4 losses if they were in the SEC, blah blah blah. And my first thing is that look, I'm getting a little tired of the SEC people because let's face it, college football is more popular in the South, so they have the SEC has the biggest mouthpiece and the most people saying it, most people talking. I'm just annoyed with the SEC complaining that we're being disrespected because Georgia was 12th in the rankings, even though if you watch Georgia play, they've sucked for the last month.
Yeah.
So their whole complaint, well, look at our strength of schedule and these other teams wouldn't, this is the most difficult conference and this is blah, blah, blah. Well, look how we're being treated and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? I've had it. Enough. Okay. You're going to get 4 teams in the college football playoff. Okay. I'm sorry you won't get the 5th team. I'm sorry that Indiana's probably a 1-loss Indiana is probably going to get in over a 2-loss Tennessee. Cry me a damn river. Okay. Enough complaining about how much you're being disrespected. Yes. Do you play? Is your strength of schedule better than everybody else's? Sure. But you know what? This is where I'm at, Clark. My attitude now is you guys chose to be in the SEC. Okay. You took the money. You chose to be in this conference. You wanted to, okay, you could have gone to the ACC and the Big 12 and had an easier path. You chose not to do that. So you want to be in the SEC? This is part of the deal. And you get the benefit of playing 8 conference games. Your out of conference schedule literally is irrelevant. So it doesn't matter at all. You can do whatever the hell you want with that. Okay. And then you're going to complain when you lose games. It's like, yeah, you're going to lose. You're going to play in the SEC. You're going to lose games. That's part of the deal. And no, we can't just go, well, I mean, they're obviously better. So we're just, you guys have the best strength of schedule. So we're just going to put 8 teams in the tournament. Like that's not how this works. And the hypothetical, like, don't play the hypothetical game with me either. Well, if Indiana was in the SEC, yeah, well, they're not. Okay. We got to live in reality. Okay. Yes, there are some 1-loss teams and some teams with no losses ahead of all your 2-loss teams. You're just going to have to deal with it. And by the way, now, and when it was a 4-team playoff, that was one thing. Now you have a guaranteed path. If you win your conference, you're in. So stop complaining. Win the damn conference. Okay. But I don't want to hear this nonsense about how you've got the teams that are ranked, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, or whatever it is, that's not good enough. Like, that's too bad. Right?
Do I think join the ACC? I don't know. I mean,
do I think Alabama would beat Indiana? Yes, absolutely. But that's not the game we're playing. Like, that's not how this works. We're not doing the, oh, well, point spread. Vegas says that blah, blah, blah. That's not how this works. Okay? We're ranking the teams according to what they have done, what they are right now. We can't project out and go, well, they would definitely beat them. Who thought Alabama was going to lose to Vanderbilt? Teams lose games. That's just the way it is. So I've had it with the brand. First of all, the other thing is, don't complain to me about brand bias when Indiana and BYU were ranked ahead of Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, and Georgia. Okay, you can't come at me with the brand bias when those are the rankings. Okay, I'm sorry you don't like Texas. I'm sorry you don't like Penn State. They have 1 loss. I'm sorry that you're not thrilled with their resume. Well, they haven't beaten, this and that and whatever. Listen, those are good teams. Like, some of this is eye test. Some of this is you're watching the games and you're going, you know what? You can see that one team has better athletes than the other one. That's part of it. I have other things to say, but what do you think about any thoughts on anything else that I said there?
Yeah, I mean that all makes sense. Yeah, I've said it before. I think people are programmed to complain about college football, and also people in the SEC, like they just They, and rightly or wrongly, and to be honest, I'm not saying they don't have an argument. Yeah, it means more to them than it does to pretty much every other conference. They take it way more seriously. And to be perfectly honest, it is a more difficult conference than the other conferences in the country. It's not the same. Totally understand that. But unfortunately, that's kind of the system we're in. So if you guys want more teams to get in, then push for expansion of the playoff, which is probably going to happen in the next few years anyway. They'll probably expand it to 16. So you'll get more teams in that way. But
Yeah, I'm tired of the response to the rankings is like, oh, they're terrible. Oh, it's a joke. They don't know what they're doing. Oh, they're making it up as they go along. And it pisses me off because it's just, if you have half a brain, it's easy to figure out when they're using the eye test versus just resume or strength of schedule. It's obvious. Like and by the way, the results of the games confirm what they're telling you. BYU just lost to Kansas yesterday. Kansas is 3-6. Okay, like yes, I know teams all lose games, but I mean, come on! If you can't watch the games and see the difference, watch that Tennessee Georgia game and see the difference between Kansas and BYU, then I don't know what to tell you. You got to get your eyes checked. So no, this is my belief, Clark. They could make the rankings whatever the hell they wanted, and everyone would complain. It wouldn't matter. They could make Boise State number 1, right? And Navy number 2. Like, it wouldn't make any difference. Everyone would just bitch about it no matter what, because they have their own because everybody has their own preconceived notions about what it should be. And so, no, I'm sorry. I think the committee does just fine. Like, that's just the way it is. Win your games, you'll have a good chance of getting in. So I'm just exhausted with it. And it's just this whole thing, Paul Feinbaum today is like, I mean, Indiana and Penn State, what have they're way too overrated. What have they really done? Blah, blah, blah. Look, does anyone really believe that 4 out of the top 5 teams in the country are from the Big Ten? No. But we got to rank them accordingly. Like, we can't just make shit up. And then I love all the media just tries to go way over the top for the little guy. I got Danny Kanell putting Indiana number 2 in his rankings. It's just like, dude, you're being disingenuous now. Now you're just being ridiculous. Like, everybody and their mother knows Indiana's not number 2, but they're not number 7 either. Which is why they're ranked 5th. Yeah. In the AP poll anyway. So yeah, it drove me crazy. And one of the other complaints was, well, these teams aren't going to play any out of conference games now. Like, why would they bother scheduling anybody? It's like, okay, listen, some teams are going to probably try to do that. That's probably going to happen, but most of the time it's not these teams' fault, right? I mean, Ohio State's got Texas scheduled for the next 2 years. Mm-hmm. Like, so they're doing it. And is somebody going to try to slide in with a crappy schedule? We got teams trying to do that, Clark, and you know what happens? They end up losing anyway. Mm-hmm. Because as Reese Davis of ESPN says, and I think this is a really smart comment, if you're not good enough, a loss will find you. And that's exactly what's happened. So anyway, all right. So, as far as the games yesterday, I mean, Georgia kept themselves alive by beating Tennessee yesterday. So I thought that was an important result. I don't know where they're going to be ranked. Oregon had a tough game with Wisconsin. They were losing the game in the fourth quarter and managed to come back and win. So that was a nice of them to stay on the wagon. And we're going to get Indiana against Ohio State next week. So we'll find out. All these people complaining about Indiana. Here we go. You'll see it. They're going to go to Columbus, and we'll find out what's going on with them. But Clark, this is interesting, Clark. This is something that is going to become a big topic in the next few weeks here. So the AP poll came out, and because BYU lost, they had Boise State ahead of them. So that means Boise State is one of the 4 highest ranked conference champions at the moment, which I think we'll see what the CFP rankings do, but I think they're going to follow a similar. I think they're going to be pretty close. We'll see what it says. But if that happens, Boise State's going to get a bye. Well, 8 other teams
Yeah.
have to play first round games. And so, yeah, it's just like, man, these people are going to go nuts. But Clark, again, here's my point. You guys literally created this playoff yourselves. Like the conferences,
Yeah.
literally, you guys worked together and came up with this. The SEC agreed to it. The SEC, which runs the sport, is the most powerful conference. This is what you guys agreed to. So when Boise State gets a first round bye, like I really don't want to hear it. Like you guys all agreed to this. Nobody forced you to do this. You guys, now in my opinion, you should have done it years ago, but you guys agreed to it. So I don't want to hear any nonsense about when Boise State gets a bye. I don't want to hear it from the SEC teams. Like I don't want to hear it at all. Now, that being said, what's going to be funny is, oh yeah, we got the SEC teams ranked, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. They're going to get into the playoff. They're probably going to annihilate everyone. That's probably what's going to happen because you're going to give them extra time off, so everybody gets healed up and ready to go. And then they're just going to probably beat the crap out of the Big Ten teams and whoever else gets in, So, and they're going to be like, see, and it's like, but those two things are not the same. Being included has nothing to do with, how you do once you get in. And that to me, Clark, I guess is my overall point that I want to close on. The point is not where you're ranked, who's ranked ahead of you, is it fair, blah, blah, blah. The point is getting in the play. That's what you want to do. Just get in. Yeah. That's the point. Get into the playoff. You have a chance now. You had no chance before. So, but the people who are like, oh, every week it's a travesty, it's a joke, it's a disaster. What are they doing? It doesn't make any sense. They're making it up. No, I'm sorry. All you people are wrong. Like very rarely do I say things like that, but you know what? In this case, you guys are all wrong. I can explain to you exactly why the teams are ranked where they are. It's not that hard to figure out. And okay, so I ranked the teams today. I've been doing it every week. So here's my rankings for this week. Listen, I'm not perfect either. I'm just giving you my opinion. Other people may differ, but it's pretty reasonable. Like what the committee comes out with every week is reasonable. Okay.
Yeah.
So I kept Oregon number 1. They struggled at Wisconsin, but they're still undefeated. They still got one of the best wins in the country. So I feel no reason to move them. Ohio State, I kept at 2. Nothing to say about them. They're winning. They got a big game against Indiana, so we'll see how they do. I put Texas 3rd. Look, I know Texas doesn't have some great, amazing win to shake a stick at, but they made the playoff last year. This is a legitimate team. This isn't some, fluke, whatever. They went to Michigan and beat them. I know Michigan's not great, but they kicked their ass. They played Oklahoma. They kicked their ass. Yes, they got beat by Georgia. I understand that. They beat the hell out of Florida. Like, look, no, they don't have like a glowing, ridiculous resume, but seriously, watch the team play. They're awesome. I put Penn State 4th. No, I don't feel good about Penn State. Do I think Penn State's going to win a playoff game? Probably not. But you know what? They played well in basically every game. They almost beat Ohio State. Yes, I know they lost to them at home. That's why they're 4th. But they're still a good team. I would have had, before Tennessee lost this week, I had Tennessee 3rd. Everybody disagreed with that. Well, Tennessee lost to Arkansas, whatever. It's like, just because the team isn't in the top 25 doesn't mean like it's a horrible loss if you lose to that team. I think that's something people get caught up in. Well, how many ranked wins do they have? Like, okay, like you can't have a resume full of top 25 teams. That's just not how the schedules are made. I put Indiana 5th. Indiana's been dominant in almost all the games they played. They're undefeated. If you don't believe in them, that's fine. We'll get to see them against Ohio State. But from what I see, that's a pretty good team with pretty good players on it. They're a major conference team. They're not, some team from the group of 5 that I know has inferior athletes. So, but yeah, we'll see how they do. If they win, probably move them up. If they lose, we're going to move them down. That's how this works. It's fluid. I put Alabama now. So I this four SEC teams in a row after this. And the question is going to be with the committee. These are all 2-loss teams. What order do you put them in? But so this is the best I could do. Okay. I put Alabama 6th. I just feel like of those teams, I feel like they've played the best. Do they have some issues? Yes. That's why they're 6th, not 2nd. but out of those teams, I feel like they're the best team. Then I put Ole Miss after them. Ole Miss did not play Alabama, but they blew out Georgia. I didn't feel it like I could put Georgia ahead of them. I just feel like Ole Miss has got an awesome roster, and if Tennessee's offense could have done anything, they would have beaten Georgia yesterday. So I put Ole Miss 7. I put Georgia 8th right after them. Listen, Georgia's good is very good. Are we going to see that again? I don't know. But I put them 8th. I put Tennessee right after them at 9th. I know people are like, Tennessee's over. I think Tennessee's good.
Yeah.
I think Tennessee beat Alabama. I think they've got a really good defense. They're kind of inexperienced on offense. They're not an awesome team, but I put them 9th. And I really debated on 9 between Tennessee and putting Notre Dame ahead of them, because I basically put all these SEC teams ahead of Notre Dame. I think Tennessee is the one team that Notre Dame might be able to beat. So I put Notre Dame 10th. Notre Dame's got the worst loss. That's basically the reason why they're in this spot. But they've been consistent every week, and they've been getting better every week. 11, I put SMU 11th. As we well know, I haven't believed in Miami the whole season. I think they're just completely fraudulent, and I don't think they can beat a team who actually is good up front and can actually run the football a little bit. I think SMU is a good team, but I don't think they're like elite or anything like that. I think SMU is going to win the ACC. They're undefeated in the conference so far, and I like what I've seen. I put Boise State 12th. This was a debate between Boise State and BYU. I think BYU is really well rounded, but I think Boise State's got overall a better roster. They got a running back who's going to be a Heisman candidate. I just think in a game Boise State beat them. So I put Boise State 12. And then I did 2. I put BYU and Miami right after them, 13 and 14. So, we'll see how it goes. It depends on who wins conference championship games. That'll kind of shape a lot of this. But I don't know, Clark, what did you think about the way I ranked those SC teams? Bama, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee.
I guess it makes sense. I haven't watched them very much, so just outside looking in, none of those teams have 3 losses, right?
No.
Yeah, everybody's got 2. You kind of got to take the best 4, maybe 5 SEC teams and put them in. Now we'll see if that ends up happening at the end of the year, but
yeah, I think, so I think what might happen is, looking ahead, I think we might end up with a debate. Assuming Indiana loses to Ohio State, we might end up with a debate like Indiana's 11-1, Tennessee or Texas A&M is 10-2. I think that's what we might be looking at for that large spot. And honestly, Clark, my attitude about that is, yeah, whatever. Put whichever team you want in. It doesn't matter. Like that, those teams probably aren't winning the championship. And it's just ridiculous that's what we're arguing about. And the other thing is, like, people saying, well, 2 teams are going to be screwed. Like, they're going to be screwed if they don't make it. You're not screwed if you don't make this playoff. Florida State last year got screwed. Okay. Auburn in 2004 got screwed. Okay. That's different than this. This is, you had your chances. You didn't get it done. You got a 12-team playoff. You got 12 games. Make it happen. If you can't, that's too bad for you. This is not a travesty if the 5th SEC team doesn't get in. So, it's a bunch of crap. And no, I'm not going to feel bad if Indiana doesn't get in. Like, your schedule was awful. And if you lose, you get dominated by the one good team you play. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to for me. Now we'll see what they do. Like in the AP poll, they have Notre Dame ahead of all those SEC teams. They have Notre Dame 6th. That's the big difference between mine and theirs. And they have Miami above SMU, which I just, but that's my own. That's my own bias. Maybe that's my issue. But anywho, yeah, it's gonna be a fun end of the season, though. I'm glad that we have so many more games now that matter, that are interesting. So that's really cool. And Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, Clark. It's going to be awesome. We're going to get December 20th. We get one playoff game like that Friday night, and then we get 3 playoff games on a Saturday. And then New Year's Day, we get 3 playoff games back to back to back. Like, this is going to be a lot of fun. And I think that's the point. Arguing about the stupid ass rankings is not the point.
Yeah.
All right, Clark. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, I think we covered it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, sports fans, hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next week.